G'day you mob, Pete here, and this is another episode of Aussie English, the number one place for anyone and everyone wanting to learn Australian English. So today I have a Goss episode for you where I sit down with my old man, my father, Ian Smissen, and we talk about the week's news, whether locally down under here in Australia or non-locally overseas in other parts of the world. Okay, and we sometimes also talk about whatever comes to mind, right? If we can think of something interesting to share with you guys related to us or Australia, we also talk about that in the Goss. So these episodes are specifically designed to try and give you content about many different topics where we're obviously speaking in English and there are multiple people having a natural and spontaneous conversation in English. So it is particularly good to improve your listening skills. In order to complement that though, I really recommend that you join the podcast membership or the academy membership at aussieenglish.com.au, where you will get access to the full transcripts of these episodes, the PDFs, the downloads, and you can also use the online PDF reader to read and listen at the same time. Okay, so if you really, really want to improve your listening skills fast, get the transcript, listen and read at the same time, keep practicing, and that is the quickest way to level up your English. Anyway, I've been rabbiting on a bit. I've been talking a bit. Let's just get into this episode, guys. Smack the bird, and let's get into it. So, yeah. Oh, man. All right. So I had my first day at the... First day. Not first day. It's been
first day of real work.
Yeah. It's been the third day now of real work. Let me just get some of these whiskeys out of the way. So I took these whiskeys in today. So I brought my props here to do some trades with the guys at the whiskery. So if you guys are interested in whiskey and gin in particular, and you're living around Geelong, and you can actually leave Melbourne currently, go and check out the Whiskery. So they are a distillery in, I guess, between Drysdale and Port Arlington on the Great Ocean Road. What am I smoking?
The Port Arlington Road.
The Port Arlington Road. And they're in the Bellarine Peninsula. And it's kind of like, I guess it's sort of like how would you describe it? It's kind of like a winery kind of stop off where you can go and chill out, have some drinks, you know, enjoy the scenery.
Yeah, food, good food.
Good food as well. I got married there.
You
so
did?
That's why I'm giving them a shout out. But I today got to do cuts of the first ever whiskey that I have been a part of distilling. So that was good fun. And they gave me a whole bunch of these freebies to share with Dad.
So have you got all 5 there?
I believe so. I may not have the most recent one, but I've got a bunch of these gins.
Yeah.
So
Teddy and the Fox
share
was
with
the first
Dad.
one. And they named them after dogs that they've had.
Yeah, and I think I got to meet one called Billy recently, who is going to be the first whiskey. It's going to be Bad Boy Billy.
Bad Boy Billy.
Yeah, will be the first whiskey that they have. And so, yeah, I think this was really cool. This is Teddy and the Fox that I'm holding up to the camera here, and it is Staffordshire Bull Terrier,
I think, yeah.
chasing a fox. And apparently that's what actually happened. He, when they bought the land there, Teddy jumped out of the car or whatever, saw a fox and chased him across the field. And they get a Sydney-based artist to do the artwork for all of these, which are really cute.
So it's Rosie and the Rabbits.
Rosie and the Rabbits, yes.
Rosie
There's another one.
Digging up rabbits.
Yeah, so they tend to... I really like that aspect of the whiskies.
Yeah. We've got the Old Dodger.
Yeah. What have we got? Old Dodger, Trooper in the Roo, Rosie and the Rabbits. I got a bunch of them, so you can have one of those. We can smash them out later. And Teddy and the Fox. And there's another one coming out for, I think, raising money for koalas. That's about to come out. It hasn't come out yet. Right. So, yeah, it's been really, really cool sort of just going down there and volunteering and learning how to make gin and whiskey. So today we were running it through the still and doing the cuts and everything. Get to sample it every 30 minutes, give your opinions.
So you're in that crossover period between the science and the art.
Yeah.
In whiskey making, because gin, the science takes about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The art is what flavours you put in it.
Yeah.
Whiskey, obviously, I don't know how much you want to go through the process of making whiskey.
I don't know.
Probably do a show
bore
on
you guys
that one.
to sleep.
Yeah. But there's there's a longer series of steps to be that are a combination of science at the beginning and then art at the end of just mixing flavours and tastes and things. So.
Well, and you guys will probably see, I mean, if I hold up some of these whiskies, you might be able to see on the camera here how dark. This is an 18-year-old Macallan, and so it is relatively dark. I mean, they probably get darker. But the darkness is tannins that come out of the wood, and that takes a very long time for that to happen generally. It depends on barrel size that you use. It happens much more quickly in a small barrel versus a really big barrel, but they tend to use big barrels for these more commercial ones. But yeah, it's really interesting, and so I don't know, it's just so fascinating getting into it. But I was watching some stuff recently, and there's a lot of people going sort of crazy with the science. There's a guy in America, and he has I guess it's not a whiskey technically. It's made like a whiskey's made, but because he does it in 6 days and he uses UV light, he shines UV light into the whiskey, in which I believe there are oak pieces of wood, staves that have been taken from a barrel.
Oh, so he's actually putting the wood directly in to increase the
the
surface
whiskey
area of
yeah,
the
but
wood,
then he
obviously.
shines UV light at it to speed up the rate at which the tannins degrade.
Okay, and therefore the molecules come out into the blend.
Yeah, and I think it artificially ages the whiskey rapidly. So within 6 days, he has a quote-unquote whiskey, which technically it's not, because a whiskey has to be, I think, at least 3.5 years old in America, I think. The rules change all over the place, but yeah, generally they have to have been in a barrel for 2 to 3 years, whether it's in England, Britain, Australia, Canada, and he does it in 6 days. And so I think it's called the Abomination. But yeah, he's won a whole bunch of awards for this thing that he's sped up the process. And that's one of those, I think he's hated by a lot of people as a result, because that's one of the limiting factors on whiskey and making money from that resource is the fact that a lot of them have to be put away for years and years and years and years in barrels. And if you could do that in 6 days all of a sudden and use the same label, say that is still whiskey, you would potentially undercut a lot of these big players.
Yeah, but ultimately, from the consumer's point of view, if it's the same quality of product, if it tastes similar and people like it,
oh, that's it.
And look, in the end, you can end up going to court and suing. One can end up going to court and suing people for the naming rights and those sort of things. Like, technically, according to the French government, nobody outside the province of Champagne is allowed to call sparkling white wine champagne.
Yeah.
One wonders what the French government would do to Australia if Australia just said, bad luck, we're going to call our sparkling white wine champagne. But clearly we have a good trade agreement with the European community, and we're not going to, we sell a lot more wine to Europe than we buy from Europe. So we're not going to put that at risk.
That would be a dick move. That's a good expression for you guys. A dick move. It sounds crass, but it's sort of, you don't really think of dick when you say it.
Being a dick means being stupid.
Is being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's
either being an asshole as in being nasty, or just being stupid.
Being a horrible person.
And that would just be being stupid.
And
because it would be another one, biting your nose to spite your face, which, to pass that one.
How on earth do you do that?
Yeah.
But dick move is when you do something that's sort of nasty, especially when you know that it was nasty.
Exactly.
And it's sort of...
just to make a point. Usually.
Yeah, or just to be nasty to someone. Yeah, to be horrible to someone. Man, that was a dick move. So yeah, it's been an interesting week, learning about all that sort of stuff, meeting new people, getting my hands dirty, and I don't know, I kind of miss doing actual physical work. I'll tell you what, after... What's it been now? 3 years? 3 years.
Behind a
3
desk.
years sitting behind a desk, doing Aussie English.
Well, when you started doing this, a lot of what you were doing was vodcasting on and vlogging on the fly. You were walking around and talking. So now you don't even do that.
Back in those days when I was thinner. God, I miss those days.
And you lived across the road from a park.
But yeah, it is funny. How do you feel about me getting into whiskey? Was that something you foresaw coming?
Well, I didn't so much foresee it. I quite enjoy it now because you get to buy the whiskey and I get to taste it. So I've been a whiskey drinker for a long time.
Yeah.
But,
Dad takes it a lot easier than I do, though. He's a lot more mellow, I think, in terms of... you have a small collection of 3 or 4 bottles, and you'll
3 or 4 bottles.
hold on to them until they're done.
Yeah, and when one's finished, I'll go out and buy another one sometime in the next few months. So, whereas Pete's, I don't know how many you've got now, probably about 15 or something.
No, there'd probably be more than that. Oh, maybe. But I think, I got sucked into the wanting them side by side so that I can actually compare them. And doing the social aspect of it, I mean, I'm not going to... The funny thing is, since getting into whiskey and buying all these that you guys can see if you're watching the video, I probably drink a lot less because it's not...
You talk more.
I talk more, yeah. Well, you get to socialise more, and I think that's the thing that sort of sucked me in a little bit more, is the fact that when drinking whiskey, you're discussing it and talking about, well, this one's story is this, and this one's 60-something% alcohol. Ooh, how does this one feel? What do you smell? What do you taste in this one? You don't really have that conversation with other beverages.
Yeah, well, beer is sort of, because
even
beer
other
is sort
foods.
of equivalent, but
maybe wine.
In terms of varieties, wine a little bit, but beer is sort of, I like that. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, it tastes a bit like this. It's a bit hoppy. Okay, good. Get into it. Have
Here's another one. It's hoppy as well. Well, and that's the thing. So, a beer this size would probably have, if I hold this up, this is probably 2 shots of whiskey in this little, maybe a bit less. This is 50 millilitres. So that would probably be 1.5 beers. I would probably drink that amount of whiskey in a night, maybe 1.5 of these. So that would be the equivalent of like 3 beers. If I'm just drinking beers, though, I'm probably having 2 of these an hour, right? And you're going to do that for a few hours at least. So you're probably going to have 5 or 6 beers. So that's the interesting thing.
Bloated with gassiness and the volume of liquid that you're drinking.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. So the thing that blew my mind to sort of keep talking about whiskey for this little episode is that we kind of twisted my mum's arm into getting into it recently too, right? Was that something you ever saw happening?
I will.
I twisted her arm.
Thank you. I will claim.
I bullied her.
I deny all responsibility here.
Drink it.
Yes, he bullied his mother completely unfairly.
She loved it.
No, she didn't.
What was that ad again? Your mum's another hairy one that loves it.
Oh, no, don't go there.
It was a noodle ad in Australia for a while.
But, so your mother has... been bullied into partaking, but you actually found a whiskey that she liked.
Which is, I think, this one, which is a Melbourne-based whiskey.
Yes, Port Melbourne.
Starward. This one is Solera. And you guys, for a bit of a cultural awareness, you may have seen, we should talk about Dan Andrews Get on the Beers. You may have seen Dan Andrews, our, I was about to say Prime Minister, our Premier of Victoria recently get into the news, not for COVID, reports as he's been doing for the last 120 days.
Yeah, he's had one day off. He had Sunday off this week he had 123 days in a row, and he took a day off, and everybody went, "Oh, where's Dan?
He's on the beers." No, but he made a comment, didn't he? Someone said, "Are you going to get on the beers?" And he said something like, "I think I'm going to go upper shelf or top shelf." This calls for something that's top shelf. The reference there is to, I think, whiskey. Or at least liquor that is very high quality.
They put them at the top shelf in the bar so
to keep it away from the plebs. Yeah, that's it. But he said that, and he was drinking, I believe it was Tawny by Starward Whisky, and he put a photo up of it.
Good to see him drinking a local.
Yeah, well, and that was it. It was very well placed because it's a Melbourne distillery. They're really good whiskies, guys. If you like mixing whiskies, if you're Jack Daniels kind of thing, and you want an Australian. Sort of equivalent to mixing whiskey with your Coke or whatever. Check out Starward. I don't own shares in Starward. I've never spoken to them, but check them out. Yeah, that's it. No, they're really good. Well, the guy that I work with talks to the head distiller there frequently. But Dan Andrews was smashing Tawny, I guess, shots of whiskey. He probably was. He was probably taking it pretty easy. He probably just took the photo. Didn't even have any.
One sniff and done for the...
But I love that we make a joke of that, which is why I wanted to bring that up, and it ties in with whiskey, obviously, that Dan Andrews was like, "You're going to get on the beers," and Dan Andrews is like, "Oh, nah, this calls for something a little more top shelf." Puts up an Instagram of him, with the local Melbourne whiskey. But now there is a whole song online. I think there's a song that's gone viral on iTunes called Get on the Beers.
Get on the Beers.
With Dan Andrews talking in the background with those like catchphrases. Rory, my brother-in-law, just sent me a video of a rave in Perth, effectively trance music, dance music kind of stuff with 15,000 people head pumping to get on the beers. And it's effectively, they're showing all the video and everything of Dan in his, getting interviewed and just saying, get on the beers, and it's like, yeah, you need to get on the beers, get on the beers. And they've turned it into a song. So I love that aspect of Australian humour.
Hey, look, if you can't turn a one-liner into a song, you're not very good, are you? So,
yeah, I know. But yeah, Jesus Christ.
Dance music where all you need is 100 beats per minute beat behind you and a one line. So
how do you feel looking back? I mean, we've had another thing to bring up, well, if I can keep a train of thought going, is
the been a long day, apparently.
The double donuts. Donut
Yeah, hey,
days.
that was my first story.
All right, well, you can get into it.
First story was double donuts.
Double donuts.
Which
is a good expression.
For our American friends, they would be sitting there going, the expression is double bagels. But, as in 2 zeros.
Yeah, 2 zeros. 0
0. 0 0.
Double donuts.
We are double donut 6 days in a row.
Yeah, how good's that?
So no COVID cases. Yes, thank you, Dan. Fuck you, everybody else.
Who's giving Dan a hard time.
Whining about
Not
Dan.
just in general.
Yeah, just to give you a perspective, in
to everyone who's been calling him
exactly.
Hitler and
everybody
Stalin
else,
and just Chairman Mao.
There's Dan and then there's everybody else. Just to put it in perspective, sometime in early June, when we peaked at 750 new cases a day.
That happened?
May, June, around
Jesus
there.
Christ, that
France
feels like yesterday.
Had 720 something, so we're ahead of France that day. Now, 5 months later, we have had 6 days in a row of 0.
Yeah.
France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain are in tens of thousands a day.
Yeah.
So all those people who were whining about the lockdowns and the economic circumstances and everything else, I'm not saying that there haven't been people who've been adversely affected. Everybody has been adversely affected, but we are now at 0 cases 6 days in a row. We now have 20 active cases, all in quarantine.
The most frustrating thing here
Victoria.
is the lack of awareness. You don't know, because things are good, you don't know how bad things could have been. So you don't know, for instance,
Exactly.
if Dan hadn't done that, would you be dead?
Yeah.
Would I be dead? Would Nana and Grandpa be dead? Would my friends have, contracted COVID and their parents may have died?
Oh, exactly.
Because Dan went through and, brought these draconian, authoritarian rules in where we got locked down, probably tens of thousands of people are not dead. Or at least the ramifications of this will have led to the fact that you'll have thousands of people who won't have died. But you will never know who those individuals were.
Exactly.
And that's the weird thing, that I had a lot of friends in the hospitality industry whinging about it, and I understand because their careers and their wealth and everything is tied up with having to have these businesses open and being able to feed people. But a lot of them are in the age bracket where they are some of the most at risk people. And you're kind of like, well, if you want him to open everything up and ignore the fact that COVID is a big problem in killing people, would you be one of the people who would put their hand up to die first so that your restaurant could open? And I'm sure that every single person that would be asked that would not be willing to sacrifice their life to help their business or a business of someone they know prosper slightly better. So I don't know. That's why I've had a bit of a bee in my bonnet about it.
Yeah,
I am a very libertarian person,
and me too. And I'm fairly left wing in politics, as you may have worked out by now.
Dad's a communist, guys.
No. Ideally, I probably would have been a communist 100 years ago, but it's a failed idea.
Yeah.
It's just a little aside. For me, communism is one of those ideas that looks really good on paper until you actually involve people.
Well, it's the same with authoritarianism, right?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like, well, all we need to do is find this really good guy, the perfect guy to lead us, and it'll be fine.
Singapore, everybody says the best form of government is a benign dictatorship.
Yeah.
That's basically what Singapore was for its first 50 years.
Until the dictator dies or disappears, and
unfortunately,
takes over.
They don't have a bad person taking over. But that's a bit of an aside. But look, all joking aside around the politics and all the crap that Dan and his government have copped, it's been an incredible job by a lot of people, but him in particular. I said 123 days in a row he's worked, and he has fronted 1 or 2 times a day he has fronted the press, and every time he has
so
said,
patient.
I am here until I've answered all your questions. And he just answers, and he doesn't even bite at the really stupid questions. I reckon I've got a fairly short temper for stupidity, so I'm probably not the one to judge, but I reckon I would have lasted about 3 days there's a couple of our Murdoch press journalists who have been baiting him for months, and every time, because he knows them, and every time and I won't name them, but it's, you're asking that question again. I answered it yesterday. I told you it would take me about a week to get the data, and then a week later he comes out and says, here's the data. See, we were right. And they just keep going and going and going, and they're at him the whole time. But so he has my utmost respect, and the thing is that we don't have much of an opposition, political opposition in Victoria, which is unfortunate, I think, because I think democracy is only as strong as the opposition. But that aside, he has approval ratings in the 70%.
And that's what you never hear about because of the Murdoch media. You think that everyone hates him, and especially on Facebook, you end up in an echo chamber where even if you don't agree with a lot of the stuff you see, if you react to it, Facebook keeps showing you more of it. So I keep seeing all of the anti-Dan Andrews stuff, and you think, oh, geez, everyone's thinking this. But in reality, when you actually walk outside and chat to people, everyone's like, no, he's doing a great job.
Approval ratings in the 70%. So, and that means that about a third of the people who are in that approval rating wouldn't vote for him. So, he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So, that's the COVID story in Victoria at the moment. And the border to New South Wales has just opened up.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of drama between New South Wales and Queensland, apparently.
And Queensland are not open to Victoria either.
No.
But, Gladys Berejiklian, who's the Dan Andrews equivalent in New South Wales.
Except a Liberal, not a Labor.
Yeah, she's the other side of politics. But she actually has done a very good job as well. She's screwed up on a whole bunch of other things, some of which we've spoken about in previous episodes. But
like partner choice.
Yeah, let's not go there. But she ran that line of lockdown early, and and to her credit, the Premier of Queensland, the three of them, Premiers of Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, basically ran the country for the first 3 months of this.
Yeah, while ScoMo was thinking about a holiday in Hawaii.
Yeah, what can I possibly do? And because the three premiers just said, well, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And they sort of agreed, and therefore the rest of the country started to do it. But
their relationship, New South Wales and Queensland's kind of deteriorated, right? I think Gladys was on the news today saying she can't even phone up the woman. She's trying to get her on the phone.
Leaves a message, and the Premier from Queensland just doesn't answer it. So doesn't ring her back. So that's a bit bizarre.
Rocky road.
Which, the Premier from Queensland has just been re-elected this last weekend as well. So I think she's probably got other things to think
Labor,
about,
right? So you've got Labor Queensland, Liberal New South Wales,
Labor down the coast.
Labor Victoria. Yeah. My God, tongue twisters. So is that it for the story? Double digits. Double digits. Double donuts.
Double donuts.
Jeez, too much beer, Pete. God.
Yeah, or not enough.
Yeah, or not enough. Just not enough lubrication. Far out.
Lubrification. There you go.
Lubrication. Yes. Far out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this episode. See you on the next one.
See ya.
Alrighty, you mob, thank you so much for listening to or watching this episode of The Goss. If you would like to watch the video, if you're currently listening to it and not watching it, you can do so on the Aussie English TV channel on YouTube. This is different from the main channel. You'll be able to subscribe to that. Just search Aussie English TV on YouTube. And if you're watching this and not listening to it, you can check this episode out also on the Aussie English podcast, which you can find via my free Aussie English podcast application on both Android and iPhone. You can download that for free, or you can find it via any other good podcast app that you've got on your phone. Spotify, podcasts from iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is. I'm your host, Pete. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a ripper of a day, and I will see you next time. Peace.